Let's bit of this. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Happy?
Never happy, mate, but let's go.
Hello, welcome to Heresy Hammer episode 10. We're into double figures. Happy days. Yeah, so let's...
Who'd have thought it, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. So joining me today is my fellow guests, my fellow hosts, Rob at Meadows Miniatures. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Rob. How you doing?
Hello, yes, I am well, thank
You're
you.
well after your running with a certain virus.
Yeah, I've been poorly all week. I think I'm at sort of 90% wellness at the moment, but I'm sort of just trying to get over the last hurdle. So I've not been able to work really. It's been pretty debilitating. But I'm back now.
You've only painted 2 armies this week as opposed to
a mere two, yes, missing.
Awesome. And also Mr. Askham, Mr. John Askham from D6 Miniatures. How you doing, John?
I too have been suffering with the perpetual virus. However, I seem to have made more of a recovery quicker than Rob did. So, but he was closer to the source for long periods.
So. Yeah, maybe less said about that, the better. But yeah, it seems to have got to a few of our friends and our group, but it's all good.
John, when do you think you'll stop being John Askham from D6 Miniatures and start being John Askham from Heresy Hammer? I mean, where does it transition over? I mean, what's the point?
The problem is I'm such a free spirit, Rob, that I really, I'm more concerned with working.
You can't be constrained by.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Unfortunately, Lee isn't with us today. Top dog Lee.
Sounds like he's fucking died. He hasn't died. He's not dead.
Well,
he's that
we don't know. Well, he might die.
If anything, the irony is he's out saving lives today.
So he's some work schedule's got in the way, so I'm sure he'll be back for the next episode 11. So let's crack on. Couple of sponsors. A quick shout out to Cryptic Cabin, our good friends at Cryptic Cabin, local gaming store in Bracknell, just outside Wokingham in Berkshire, and of course the big man's painting studio, Meadows Miniatures. Rob, I can imagine you're flat out until God knows whenever. I can imagine you're like heavily booked up. Yeah. Cool. You recently hosted a course. Am I correct in thinking that? Was it a few weeks ago? Was it Painting Faces?
Oh yeah, Painting Faces. Up in yeah, it was really good. Yeah. We had 12 people there. Really busy. Hosted by Alex Wanless from the Legion of Peterborough. It was a really good course. Really good day. Just immersing yourself in hobby. I always think it's like somebody said to me once. Mark said to me on the course. I say this on every course as well, but painting courses either for the weekend or for the day are great because you immerse yourself in like-minded people, and often you just never get your phone out, and so and it's quite a different experience to the lives we usually lead, which is glued to our phones or glued to our computers, whatever. But it's quite a unique thing just to sit down with 12 people and just immerse yourself in kind of just one thing and be with like-minded people for the day. It was really nice actually. Good day.
Good days. Good. Before we go on to our next session, I just want to say that to sort of mark our 10th episode and reaching the milestone of 1,000 subscribers to the channel, we've got a little bit of a giveaway courtesy of Cryptic Cabin. They very generously donated some prizes for us to give away to you guys. So there'll be more info on that towards the end of the show. It's pretty good. We're excited.
It's really good. Fucking
I might be underselling it.
Fucking good. Like as far as YouTube subscriber, Instagram subscriber giveaways go, this is a fucking good one. So you need to make it to the end of the show to know what to fucking do. That's very true.
Don't skip straight to the end because we'll know.
Maybe it's one of those things where at the end you have to do something that requires you to have watched it. Maybe there's a question that we asked in it. Exactly.
Maybe I have to go back to the middle.
So when I reached out to Cryptic Cabin and asked them if they'd happily put forward some prizes, I got a very good response about a week or so ago, and all four of us were quite shocked at what they willing to give us to give
big
you
thanks,
guys. So yeah, some massive thanks to those boys, to Ben and the team, and to Russell and those guys. Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much. But yeah, more on that a little bit later. Sorry, mate.
Sorry, just to say as well, if people do want to support the people that support us, then they can find our link in the show notes, and also if they head over to Instagram, which is Heresy Hammer Show on Instagram, they can find a link to Cryptic Cabin. Anything they purchase from them, they receive a sweet discount on as well. So
absolutely,
definitely worth supporting those boys.
Yeah, thank you for that. Nice one. Cool. And as you guys may be sort of aware, Lee and Rob posted a short video about a week or so ago talking about Patreon. So we're now on Patreon, we're now in Patreon land with various tiers for you guys to sign up. Rob, do you want to give us a quick 2 seconds rundown about the Patreon again? If that's right.
It's going to be unfortunately longer than 2 seconds, but so I think the first thing to say, and certainly Lee wanted to get this across in this episode, was that the part of the reason why we're moving to Patreon is that there's ultimately a cost in creating these videos. So the first level of cost is kind of time. The second level of cost is kind of the Zoom videos and things like that. So what we are trying to do is kind of just break even. There's also equipment that we've kind of invested in, mics and things like that. So yeah, that's part of the reason why we've gone to this kind of Patreon model, because the longer that we go on, we'll need to upgrade things and do things like that.
We have to buy 4 copies of everything that's released for Heresy.
So like the militia book that's coming out, or the Solar Orcs book, I don't really have too much of an interest in that, but Paul might not have an interest in that, right? And he's got to get it for the show. It's not that bad. Wow. But but as part of the tiers, what we also wanted to do is kind of create a community project to kind of also give back as well. So our first kind of level is just just over £3, and you get access to 2 additional shows each month. So you get access to the Heresy Hammer Tactica that we do. We've already posted our first one for this month, which goes through, it's an hour-long show actually, and goes through the Predator, so the ins and outs of the Predator Legion tank. So it's a really, really interesting show. And as a result of that one show, I've now picked up another sort of 3 tanks, right? From there, we also have Centurions. It's just over £5. So you have everything that Legionary gives you, but on top of that, every 4 months, you'll be entered into a prize draw. And you will have a chance to win a console, either a GW console or a Forge War console. If your name is picked out of the hat, we'll ask you what kind of Legion color scheme you want, and then one of the 4 of us will paint it for you. So that runs every 4 months. So we think that's a really kind of cool thing. It will, for 4 months, that's just over 20 quid, and that's less than a Legion console will kind of cost you, and it's painted by one of us as well. So we think that's a pretty darn good deal. For the Legion Praetor. So the Legion Praetor has been the most popular kind of one for us. We're just under 20 so far, and it's only been released just over a week. So you get access to all the things previously mentioned, but you also get a swag bag every 6 months as well. So we'll put things in there. For example, we might once every 6 months we might do a range of dice, or we might do t-shirts, or we might create some bespoke objective markers that you guys can have, and then we will send them out to you. We're percolating on ideas about what they will be, but yeah, we hope that this Patreon, it covers our basic costs, but also as a community project that gives back to the community as well, through swag or through a chance to be in competitions. But you don't even need to be part of the Patreon to be in part of competitions if you really want to. But we really appreciate the support, whatever you decide to do.
Yeah, I think the first thing to say is that we are already absolutely overwhelmed by the number of patrons we already have, and the number of messages we've received. It's been really, really positive. So thank you so much. It's also worth reiterating that we're going to be putting out even more content on the main feed as well. So there's going to be just more to come from us over winter. But if you want the absolute the most possible Heresy Hammer you can possibly get hold of, the best way of doing that is just to join us over on the Patreon. So we've got lots and lots and lots of things in the works. We've got we've got some more events we're looking to do. Bearing in mind that our last one sold out in about 30 minutes. It's there's some really cool stuff in the work. So yeah, thank you very much for supporting us on Patreon. If you can't, we understand, but we'll continue to put out some really good content on just the normal channel. But if you can support us, or you'd like to receive some cool things, some really bespoke stuff, some swag, and possibly even a model painted by the legendary Lee Jaggard, the man who paints one model a year anyway, then he might as well make it yours. So come and join us on the Patreon. So there'll be a link to the Patreon in the notes below, but also it's a nice easy one. It's patreon.com/heresyhammer.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Right then. Okay, so the main section, this episode will be talking about the recent Greetings from the Warp event. I was supposed to be there, but I was struck down with the Lady Rona a few days beforehand, so I couldn't attend. I was supposed to be teamed up with Rob. So yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later, and we'll just go through the guys' games, what they thought of the sort of like meta and things like that, and what units were hot and what units sucked, etc.
Worth bearing in mind that our guest presenter Harry was also struck down with the Rona, but decided to attend nonetheless, and then ruined the majority of our weeks. So.
Moving on. We won't say anymore. Moving on. Cool. So now we've got our Heresy Hammer section. You guys have been posting like crazy, which is awesome to see. So keep them coming. Thanks very much for everybody who's tagged their whips and their completed models with the hashtag. So first up on the left, we've got We Model Painter. John, talk us through this bad boy. What do you reckon?
Well, honest to God, I thought it was a render to start off with. It looks so, like, from an artistic perspective, I think it's so nicely presented. I thought to myself, oh mate, yeah, is this a drawing? But no, it's like, I think it's a Terran veteran Raven Guard Terminator. Yeah, I mean, what's not to like? So I think this as an alternative scheme for Raven Guard is really nice. He's got a really kind of a nice little army of these boys going now. I think we've showcased his Reacher unit previously. I think I actually picked it last time I hosted, and really cool. Could not like this more. I think it's I think
top banana, isn't it?
Yeah, it's top banana indeed.
Top banana. Yeah, love the freehand. It's fantastic. But I think that's is that a Tortuga Bay or whatever they're called?
I think so.
I can't pronounce. I can't think of how
he looks a little bit thicker than a standard.
He's a bit chonky, isn't he? He's a bit of a beast.
It might well be a 3D print actually. I'm not sure it's a Tortuga. I think it's a print.
It's a 3D print. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, it's awesome. So keep them coming, dude. They're fantastic. On right hand side, Cheese Hammer 40k. Now this guy, I think he's down your neck of the woods, John. I think I think so. Yeah.
Oh, friend.
Yeah, so you should reach out to him and have him come around for a cup of tea or a coffee. So this guy's been posting whips of his Dark Angels, and especially this Spartan. It's fantastic. There's a really good photo he's got on his Instagram of the top hatch area of that red stripe, and just his precision sort of streaking his weathering is, in my opinion, it's bang on. Yeah, Rob, what do you think of this bad boy? Do you like it?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great. Yeah, it's awesome. There's nothing more to say. It's absolutely brilliant. He's done a great job, and the other parts of his army are fantastic as well. He's been working really hard on these. I think that the named character, the Cataphracti named character that came out for the Dark Angels, I can't recall its name now. I've got it here. I want to say Shadrach Medusa, but it's not.
No, exactly.
It's not that
precisely.
One. Yeah.
It's the one, the scrap dealer.
Yes, he he did an awesome job on that model. He's got some really Dark Angels to be proud of.
Fantastic. Let's go next up. So next up, left hand side, Savior of Kauth. This rather nice Imperial Fist Contemptor, chewing into. Not too sure where that leads.
I think it's a World Eater.
Is it a World Eater? It's kind of
white. Yeah. World Eater.
Yeah, so this is proper grim, proper dark, proper heavily weathered, lots of oil paints by the looks of things. Yeah, I'm loving that. I really like that sort of swamp base that he's got going on with the blood splatter and all the sort of remains and bits and pieces of people. Yeah, it's really cool. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's a great job. Peak Heresy, nothing more to say. He's done a really cool job, really dynamic. And yeah, I love the filthy, oily look.
Blood effects are really good as well. There's enough to show the gore of a man who's just had his neck eviscerated by the thumb of a power fist, but not so much that it looks like that that it's kind of overdone.
Receiving a jolly good thumbing.
Oh yes, oh yes. And on the right hand side we have Noise Minis.
Yeah.
Now this is interesting. This is interesting. That's why I picked it. I just wanted to get some chat about this one. The guy's gone. I mean, fair play to this guy or gal whoever it is who's painting this. Is it sort of non-metallic metals?
It's non-metallic metals. Yeah.
I mean, fair play to you. Yeah, fair play. That's an undertaking on a tank. Yeah, good work. It looks awesome. What do you think, Rob? Would you be mad enough to maybe? Well, I say mad. Would you have the patience to maybe go for a non-metallic metal?
No, I wouldn't have the patience to do that. But it is impressive nonetheless. I think the best part about it is the vents. I think that they look particularly well executed. The other thing I would comment on is it's quite a dark, almost like drab Steel Legion drab scheme as well, which is quite unusual for Death Guard. But I really admire the skill involved in this.
Yeah, I really like it as a sort of super desaturated brown, as opposed to like an off-white or a cream, or like a white that's been kind of filtered back. I think it's really lovely, really genuinely lovely. I'm not sure I follow this guy, so I'm going to go and give him a quick little follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Yeah, good work, buddy. Cool. And then we have Andy Bucksart on the left-hand side with his converted.
It's good use of the chaplain, the Ultramarine chaplain. Actually,
it's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah.
So I don't know if you can hold too much of this chaplain any longer, but it makes a great base character. But yeah, really cool Sons of Horus. Just like the pop of red here and there. And then I don't know what book he's holding, maybe the Book of Lorgar or something like that. I'm not sure, but it looks brilliant. It's a great job.
Yeah, I really like those sort of like micro scratches he's done on the cover of the book on that sort of maroon. It looks fantastic. That's real precision there. I love that.
Wonderful.
A 000 brush to make those, I think.
Yeah.
Really nicely lit as well. It kind of draws the whole that you kind of it draws everything to sort of to the face and to the chest area.
Very dramatic.
It's really well centered. I think it's perfect.
Yeah,
actually, this is brilliant.
Yeah, where's the helmet from? Is the helmet?
It looks like a 3D print.
Is it right? Okay.
Yeah, I don't recognize the flat surface of that helmet from a GW range. The only thing I can think though is perhaps it is just a normal marine helmet with one side has been filled in. Which actually would be just quite a cool thing to do if you fill them in and make them flat. I think that's actually I've not seen that done before, but maybe Andy could let us know in the comments about kind of where the helmet's from, because it looks wicked.
Yeah, fantastic. On the right hand side, we've got WH Black Panzer with his Ultramarine. Rob, you've been Ultramarine. You've been on the Ultramarines recently. The last few weeks, they're kind of
So we showed this guy. We showed you this guy the other week, I think, Paul. When you went here, when he had I think it was the start of a small army, basically. And as John made the point, it's really cool to see those beginnings, those early beginnings, because it certainly motivates you. But this guy's done some amazing stuff, and we saw this picture much further away, so it's much nicer to see it in kind of closer range. I think with the new plastics as well, it's great to see some really interesting and amazing artists kind of come to the fore. And this guy is certainly one to watch.
Yeah, massive fan. Anything to add, Mr. Rascombe?
No, I think it's wicked. I really loved what he did, what we saw from him previously. Yeah, right. I think, I wasn't not sure if this is part of that force we saw. I think it is.
I think it's because nice, the dead Marine reminds me that.
Yeah, nice to get some detail. Really like the sword. I think it's
the sword is amazing, isn't it? Yeah, the sword is fantastic. Yeah, it's really good.
I'm not sure if it's a mixture. I think what it probably is it's a true metallic metal with just some glazes within it, just to sort of bring the sheen off of it. But Yeah, it's really good. I really like
Yeah.
that. Again, maybe if he's watching, he can let us know how it's painted in the comments.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cracking job. And then a couple of heavyweights. I thought I'd drop these two guys in.
Yeah,
Yes.
worth talking about these guys. So XC Painting is a mutual acquaintance of all of ours, a guy called Prometheus, who is he lives in Greece. He is a Golden Demon winning artist. He won, I think he's only won one time, but I might be incorrect about that. So he will definitely correct me if I'm wrong.
He definitely will as well.
Yeah.
So he won with a Imperial Fist Leviathan, which is just so good. In fact, I don't think he's won once. I think he's won twice, because I think he also had the dual. He won in the dual category with a White Scar climbing up a Alpha Legion Contemptor and putting a melter bomb in.
Oh, is that his? Okay.
I think that is his, but again, he will correct us. But he's got some amazing armies. He's probably got the biggest range of armies of anybody that I kind of know. But he's an absolutely fantastic artiste. He's very, very talented.
And a super nice guy as well. He's one of those people, I think, if you ever want to know kind of how he does something, like reach out, talk to him. He's always really happy to sort of share his knowledge, and just like Medwell levels of productivity as well. Just like always churning out stuff to a super high quality and like a time frame that you can't quite believe has happened.
Yeah.
Is he a commissioned painter? Is that his full-time occupation?
I think he works in photography actually, but just loves
painting.
I think the thing about like he can work at a particularly exceptional level, as we've seen from his Golden Demon kind of winning things, but also I think Prom knows quite a few hacks and tricks to speed up the process, but also to make it look excellent as well.
Should we actually talk about this model?
Oh yes,
yes, we should. Yeah, maybe yes, yeah. It's nice, isn't it? Yeah, very nice.
You know about this one, Paul. Like this is a Thousand Suns one, right?
Yeah, I tried to replicate the scheme on a knight, and he's done a far better job than I did. But I love a metallic scheme. I'm a sucker for a metallic scheme, and this is just amazing. The shading on the leg and on the sort of like thigh panel, I guess you could kind of call it, and the dick plate, and he's just nailed it. I fucking love it. As soon as I saw that picture, I was like, I've got to put it on it. It's got to go on. It's so good against the green as well. That sort of clear green. It's just banging. It just looks awesome. I'd love to see it in the hand. Yeah, it's awesome. So cool. And the guy on the right. So this is painting_mayhem. Now, the first time I think the three of us were introduced to this guy's work was at the very first Greetings from the Warp Weekender. Was that last year? And the guy rocked up with a Porphyron. Was that right? He did a Porphyron, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2010. Yeah, 2020 it was.
It wasn't a Porphyron though, was it? It was the equivalent Porphyron with the two massive arms.
Okay, apologies.
Yeah.
And a Castus Knight, regardless. And it was just he just rocked up at like
and just
5 o'clock in the afternoon, unloaded this sort of mega box, and just everyone was, I think, a little bit especially me, because I ended up winning second place vehicle in the Cult of Painting Open, as opposed to first, had he not bothered turning up. So cheers for that, Lee. Thank you so much.
So Lee's won a Golden Demon before, is that correct?
He's won it with the night before, yeah.
Right. And all his work is of an incredibly high standard. Yeah, it's just mind-blowing. The freehand and just his attention to detail, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
I spoke to Lee at the weekend and he said Heresy Hammer is the only show that he bothers to watch on YouTube.
Oh, thanks very much, Lee. What a gent.
What a great.
He is a really nice dude as well. So yeah.
He's only just joined Instagram as well. So if you don't follow him already, make sure you go follow him. The things that he's been able to do with resin and then inserting cogs into that resin, or overlaying resin over the cogs rather, are just insane. Like the level of detail and accuracy that this guy has is just
phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I remember Henry Steele came up to me and a couple of other guys at that weekend and was like, does anybody know who that guy is talking to in each? And we were like, no, never seen him before. Never seen him at Heresy. No, never met him before. Yeah, as John was saying, rocked up, plonked his model down, and everybody just
He's got some insane ultramarines as
fantastic.
well that kind of go with this.
Okay.
It's just a force that's entirely thing. You can see with the mech here, it's got an ultramarines kind of symbol on the bottom, and the whole army is based like this, and the ultramarines are based like this as well. And it's massive. It's just an awesome looking theme.
Yeah. So yeah, go check all of those people out and give them a follow on Instagram. Cool. Right up. So Heresy Thursday next up. This dropped last week. Was it the middle of last week?
Yes. Yeah.
So what do you guys think? I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's fucking awesome. Not a massive fan of the bare head, but I really like it. I think it's fucking cool.
I think they could have used a more handsome man than me to sculpt the bare head from, to be honest with you. But
that's true.
There you go. I got like 5 whispers going, oh, this looks like you. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's really cool. Rob, what are you thinking as a former Dark Angels player?
I think it's right. I think that it's not my Corswain. Like we have artwork of the Corswain that is kind of depicted within the Siege of Terror books and also within the Horus Heresy game, like the computer game. And this isn't like, this is John and this is not Corswain. So I found it an unusual choice of bare head to go with. I'm not massively pumped that they've moved away as well from kind of larger display bases. Like, I think that one of the cool things that you had, say, with Khan, the fact that it was in the Horus Heresy series range, was that you had a dynamic figure placed within a dynamic kind of base where he was kind of cutting the arm off a Raven Guard Marine, and I always thought that was really cool, like a mini vignette. Whereas the tendency now has been to remove the kind of like the peripheral stuff around the actual model and just stick with the actual model. I can understand it because it keeps it cheap, the price ultimately cheaper for the customer and means less work for them, so they can probably pump them out quicker. But I think that something is a shame, because I think this could have been a great one where you could have inserted a cool kind of like, you know, dead guys around his base or something like that, something a bit more dynamic. I think it's all right. I think the top half is incredible. I'm not so stoked on the bottom half. And the moment that I saw somebody like draw little like Night Body on his like shoulder pad, right, on his knee pad, and then into like a hilarious dude, was the point where I was just like, I can't unsee that now. But yeah, I think it's all right. I think the top half is really cool. I think that I'd probably just swap out the legs with something else if I were to get it. But amazing paint job. They've done an amazing job with it.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
John, anything from you, John, to add?
I think it's brilliant.
Yep.
Actually, if I'm being honest with you, I kind of agree about the non-helmeted head. Doesn't really look like Corswain, but I like the white line draped over his shoulder. I think that's really cool. I think the helmeted, I think he just looks so menacing with a helmeted head. Like he does look like he's come to sort of claim judgment over you.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know how tall he is, because he's really filling up that.
He looks like a
chonko, doesn't he? Yeah,
filling that base, isn't he? Let's be honest. There's not a lot of real estate left on that base. He looks fucking. I'm just kind of looking at it in comparison to one of my Templars sat on the shelf above me, and he looks enormous. It looks really big, but I think he's cool. I do definitely echo the sentiments. I think we all love a scenic base. I think. I think it was Tom from the Merchant Princelings podcast mentioned that he would look absolutely awesome on top of Perturabe's base, like running off like a knight, like off the shoulder pad of a knight. I think that'd be incredibly cool. I personally, I really like this guy. I think he's really, really good.
Yeah, the chainmail on the inside of the cloak is fantastic,
love that.
Isn't it?
Absolutely love that.
That is brilliant.
Must be fucking heavy to haul around though.
So heavy, just constantly falling backwards.
But he's double hard. Yeah,
he's double hard.
Cool. So next up, we have this rather cool ninja assassin kind of guy. And this is a nod to, as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, the old Rogue Trader, the first ever assassin model that I bought when I was about 15. I've got one of those somewhere in the cupboard. What do you guys think of this? I think it's really cool. I like it. Maybe because it's just such a nostalgia thing
like
for me.
it.
I really like it.
I think
he's drawing the sword. It's just about to. Yeah.
This is you all over, though, isn't it? This could not be more Paul if it tried. Well, I think the paint job really makes this. I think without such a good execution of like the sort of the bodysuit, I don't think this maybe works quite as well. However,
is it because it looks like he's tripping over stones that are on his base? Is that the reason?
I don't know. I think maybe the angle that it's pictured at isn't great, but also I personally really like this. I've not really given much of a shit about the assassins so far. I've kind of feel like they've been a needless distraction from the things that we need, like plastic Mark II and assault marines, plastic breaches, etc. However, I think this is really cool. You know, it's always going to get people right in the nostalgic feels, isn't it? Like, you know, that's where you make the big bucks these days, by just reinventing old tut. So, however, I think genuinely, I think with a good paint job, this is a phenomenal miniature. I think with an average paint job, I think it'll be really boring. So,
man, I just like, but it's the same thing again with like that commissar that we saw the other day, where they've got this gun which is fucking huge. Like, look at it. It's like it's supposed to be a pistol, right? And I understand it's got like 3 guns in one, but it's the size of his fucking torso. Like, it's just like, make the guns a bit like pistols, a bit smaller, for goodness sake. Like, it's like, look at it. Like, look at it in comparison to the size of his torso. It's the same size. Like, I think it's just so cumbersome and unwieldy. And I understand it from the mini that's like a gajillion years old, but because it kind of echoes that. But I think the pistols just looks redonkulous there. But the paint job is amazing.
I don't think this feels like a heresy miniature, and I think that there's obviously 2 or 3 eyes.
It looks like Necromunda, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think
it does.
And I feel exactly in that vein. I feel like it fits a Necromundan theme like really, really well. Like, if you had like a Spira gang came back, this would be like one of your Spiras, like one of your kind of nobles from the upper houses come down just cull some poor unfortunate mooks in the Underhive with all the best kit. But I don't think it really feels like a heritage miniature. However, I personally really like it. I think it's really, really good.
Yep, it's fantastic. Yeah, I'm not listening to you, Rob.
You don't have to. I mean, but I am right, but you don't have to.
Okay, that's cool. Cool. And then, this week we had these the Blood Angel helmets and the Blood Angel shoulder pads. Shoulder pads are great. Shoulder pads are cool. But
how can you go wrong with a shoulder pad? You're just going to have like a molded Legion symbol on a shoulder pad. That's just what it is. Like, hard to fuck up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Somehow they did with the World Eaters one, admittedly, but still hard to fuck up.
Yeah. And then the heads, guys. What are your thoughts on the heads? I'm not a massive fan. What do you guys think?
I've sounded like a proper negative Nelly, but like the problem, I actually think these are okay, but in comparison to the previous Blood Angels heads they did, which were
they were amazing, so good, so good.
These are not comparable, and I think that the error. So the one thing that I was really pleased with the Imperial Fist one was they just changed the front plate to, rather being kind of like pointy triangle cone, they just changed it, and I actually thought that they would do that with quite a lot, and including things like the Ultramarines and with this Legion, but they've gone for the pointy beak, and I think that was probably a bit of an error.
I totally agree. I think if you look at them and look at the ones where they've flattened the sort of nose and sort of snout area, like the Imperial Fists, like the Iron Warriors as well. I think they are the aesthetic that seems to work better. I really like the sort of, like, I guess you would say, sergeant head. I think that's really, really cool. I think I'd use that on all stuff. I think the bear head is terrible. But I think the bear heads have largely been terrible, unfortunately. I just think that they could be anything and anyone. There's the lack of expression when we look back on the kind of the glory days of the first round of kits, right? When we look at things like, I mean, that the head from the Phalanx Water upgrade, where like you saw that everywhere. The Mark II tank commander, the one who's got that kind of like iron mask that he's wearing, like you saw that everywhere. There's some really, really iconic bare heads out there, and unfortunately, I feel like we've just gone backwards. Like this could be anything and anyone. There's just nothing. There's just not for me. But I do like the sergeant head. I think that's really cool. I think he'll be all about. I think him on top of the Praetor model out of the box, I think it would be really nice.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Cool. That wraps up that section. Cool. Do you want to take a break here, boys?
Yeah, we can take a quick break.
Yeah, take a quick break.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll be back in a moment to chat about Greetings from the War, doubles event. Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most special part of today's section. This is the new Heresy Hammer hashtag Roll of Honor. So these are people we're paying extra special thanks to. These are our patrons that are subscribed at the Praetor, the highest possible tier. So without further ado, and in no particular order, we need to give special thanks to Ben Robinson. We need to give special thanks to Walter Cook IV, clearly a perpetual, the 4th revision of Walter Cook. Ben, special shout out to Shankly, who I've been speaking to about Iron Warriors recently. We've got Gorkro, Nicola Perisic, I'm going to say. Apologies if I have got that wrong. Bradley Sloots, Patrick Greenstreet. We've got Mike. We've got powerful Tom Hayward. Richard Willis, Neil Atherton, Thomas Silverstone, John McCardle, another powerful guy, and someone who apparently would like us to send them to Valhalla. hopefully we can do that when we talk about the Space Wolves in our next Legion deep dive. So stay tuned for that. Like I said, thank you so much to all our patrons. Like, we are, I think, really taken aback by how many people have got involved so far, and we cannot begin to express our gratitude to you. Or hopefully we can, and we'll do that by producing more and more content, both on the standard feed and also over on the Patreon too. So if you'd like to join us on the Patreon, you can by visiting patreon.com and then searching Heresy Hammer, or patreon.com/Heresy Hammer, and consider subscribing. It really makes a huge difference. So thank you again, and we will look to see you next time out.
Hi guys, welcome back. This is the main section of this episode, and we'll be talking about the Greetings from the Walk doubles event that happened last weekend. As we mentioned earlier, Rob was teaming up with a fellow boyfriend, Harry. I was supposed to be Rob's partner, but the COVID stopped me going. And Will,
it was a bit more complicated than that, because what happened in the last sort of 24 hours prior to the event was that both Harry's partner and my partner Paul kind of was struck down either by illness or was just had a very long and exhausting working week. So behind the scenes there was some sort of Alfarius style machinations going on to kind of pair us up and make sure that everything worked out. So eventually me and Harry kind of joined forces. It did make list building somewhat complicated, because Harry had got the force ready according to what him and Callum were taking. He'd stolen all the heavy support slots, so I wasn't able to take any heavy support slots. It kind of, as a result, I took a very sort of, it was a pretty shit list. Because I didn't have kind of anything in the fast attacks that I could use, and I didn't have that many troops choices either. I'll talk about the experience of it a little bit later, but yeah, it was very, very the most last minute I've been for an event I think ever, and it was extremely stressful on the Friday night, getting everything together and kind of being like, oh, do I have this and this and this, thinking, oh, I'm gonna have to stay up till like 3 a.m. to paint a unit to be able to make this work. But eventually it worked out. It was fun.
Yeah, Harry had painted an entire new 1500 point army in the 2 weeks prior to this event, so it wasn't like he had other units he could pull from.
There was no flexibility, was there?
That and that. Yeah, absolutely. And John, you were partnering up with a friend of ours from the Merchant Prinklings podcast, Will.
I was.
Bastards.
More to come on that in a little while. But we, I think we were completely the opposite to Rob and Harry in that Will and I had I would say, hyper optimized list that synergized together a little bit too well.
Okay.
But we'll come to that when we come to we come to some of the games. Game 2 in particular, I think, is probably the one where we'll save a lot of that discussion for.
Okay.
So, shall I go through because this was quite unusual as well in terms of
if you could please.
So the premise of the event was that it was doubles. So that's the first thing to say. But you were sharing a force organization chart. So it meant that you could within your army could have up to three HQs, right? So it meant that one of you could take 2 and the other person could take or had to take 1. And the same again for the heavy sports slots. So that's what happened with Harry. Harry took all of the heavy sports slots. So that meant I wasn't able to use any of them. However, within the force organization chart, there were some regulations that you need to stick to. So each player had to have 1 HQ and 1 troops choice. So that was kind of the bare minimum that they had to have. There was a bullet point about loyalists and traitor, but actually it didn't really matter too much, and we found that actually on to the day it really didn't matter because the way that we grudged kind of messed things up a bit. But essentially, if I was running Blood Angels, I just had to set them as traitor, and I couldn't take a loyalist character, for example. So it's fairly straightforward. You could only take 1 Lord of War. And you could only take 1. Oh, yeah, that's right. You could only take 1 Primarch between the pair of you as well. And you were limited on 2 dreadnoughts per person. Is that right, John? So you could have up to 4.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. So there were some restrictions within the list building, and I think that some of the issues around sort of the imbalance in list writing probably came from the fact that you shared a force organization chart. I think on reflection, it probably might have been slightly better if you had 2 separate force organization charts, and then that would have meant that you would have stacked it. You would have had to have stacked your list more with troops choices, and I think that might have balanced things out, but almost like a more kind of Centurion style gaming. But nonetheless, it made for some exciting looking lists and some interesting looking armies on the tabletop.
Awesome, fantastic. Righto, let's get into it. Cool. So John and Will, this is your army. Do you want to give us a quick rundown of what you took? And that's just filthy, isn't it? Jesus.
Well, yes. So I took a Master Signals and a Siege Breaker, mainly as buff pieces. They both got obviously good overlapping buffs, especially to some of my units. Night fighting was prevalent here as well, so having the Master Signals with his Cognos Signum was going to be handy for some of my heavy support stuff, and the Siege Breaker to give units sunder. There's quite a lot of tanks actually. I was kind of quite surprised by how many vehicles there were, which was good to see. I think we might quickly touch on the meta, so to speak, at the end of the game. Cool. I had a sort of pretty bare bones unit of Tap Marines in a Rhino with a pintle mounted shrapnel cannon. I had a unit of 10 Iron Havocs with auto cannons with an augury scanner, which before we even get to the games were my MVP by far. And I had a slightly smaller unit of Havocs with las cannons, again with an augury, and then I had 10 siege tyrants. Will took a Cataphractii librarian with a cyber familiar. He took a unit of 20 breaches with Volkites, sergeant with a artificer armor and all of the toys. He then took 2 dreadnoughts, one with double Gravis melter cannon, one with double conversion beam cannon, which, if you want to know more about conversion beamers, you can look at the Patreon Tactica we did on Predators. I think there's some chat about conversion beamers there. And then rounded out the force with a nice cheeky Ferrus Manus.
Awesome.
Yes, I would definitely say that this list epitomizes the current meta of infantry, and certainly infantry with heavy weapons, that that kind of it is 2.0 in a nutshell. And I think
Right.
2.0 remains and is the shooting edition. And like shooting was strong before in 1.0. Now in 2.0, shooting is just the way. If you want to win games, just take mass shooting from infantry. And it has become so much harder for close combat armies to do their thing, just to get into combat, I think.
Okay.
And I think that one of the things that we talked about post game was that John has taken an awful lot of firepower here, but the thing about the firepower that he's taken is that it can also react either via intercept, return fire, or on the Overwatch as well. So within a whole game turn, that means that each squad can fire potentially up to 4 times. And I think that just, I think, sums up in a nutshell the where this kind of edition has gone, but also the issues with this edition as well, which is just heavy support units are just they're just the thing to say. And I would disagree with John, actually. Like, there were a number of tanks there, and there were 2 armies that were just basically just tanks. But what was more incredible was that it was the most amount of massed infantry that I'd seen in Horus Heresy for a very, very long time. Like, there were more infantry units on the board than anything else. John made the point while we were there, not a Typhon in sight. We did not see a Lord of War choice tank there at all. We saw a couple of Primarchs, quite a few Primarchs actually, but there was not a Lord of War tank in existence there. There were an awful lot of heavy support units there.
I think we very briefly touched on of course, as well, as you can see, pervading the middle of that shot is an Aegis defense line, which Will also took as well. He took for me to hide my Iron Havocs behind, so thanks for that, buddy. But one thing that we kind of discussed was the fact that this is not too dissimilar in theory from an army that Will might take himself. The fact of the matter is, what we've done by kind of combining forces is the fact that I've got the alpha, the kind of the S tier shooting units in the game to bring into essentially his list, with the Siege Tyrants and the 2 units of Iron Havocs. So I think that's probably where we sort of dialed it up maybe a little bit too much.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, yes, we'll get into that NMO. Okay. Rob and Harry, they're World Eaters and Sons of Horus, combined force. John, give us a quick Rob or John, you'll answer to both. Give us a quick rundown of what you guys took.
Yeah. I thought it was, I mean, on there, it looks like a fairly balanced list, and it would have probably done quite well in version 1.0. In fact, I reckon it could have done pretty well in 1.0. It's got Abaddon, it's got Khan there, it's got Spartan, couple of Contemptors, Last Cannon Squad, Sakaran. That's a fairly broad and balanced list. But because most of it is close combat orientated, it can't survive in this edition. And if it can survive, it gets pretty mauled in the way to close combat. And I think that was a continuing theme, which we will go into game by game, which kind of came out, which was that if you have one heavy support squad, it will get fucking blasted off the board straight away, which is exactly what happened in almost every single one of our games, because it's priority threat number 1. So once that's gone and eliminated, you're then just left with the things that are in close combat. And then you can just shoot them to shit, basically, from the Overwatch and from the return fire. That discourages close combat armies to shoot. And I think so basically, if you're a close combat army, you're just going to be like, well, there's no point me fucking shooting my guns by bolt pistols because I will receive a hail of fire back. And I think that that isn't so good for those choosing to go kind of close combat kind of orientated. It was really interesting playing with Harry as well. We have really different play styles in the way that we play. Harry's way more gung-ho than I am, and he's a greedy little bitch when it comes to kind of like multi-charges. Like, I never ever consider multi-charges as a thing because I often like whiff many of my close combat attacks, whereas Harry's like, just multi-charge the entire army. Why wouldn't you do that? That's the thing you should do. So we have two different play styles. So it was interesting kind of like playing with Harry. But yeah, I think that the two armies that you just had there really epitomize the strengths of 2.0 and the weaknesses of 2.0 as well.
Cool.
John, would you say that's a fair kind of summation?
Well, we'll come to this in about 7 minutes time. But yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's also worth saying as well. Look, we wouldn't probably normally do like an event review like this, but it was just so interesting. It was the first time, I think, certainly in the UK, that we've had as many people in one place and as many people who are kind of quite well known within the kind of heresy scene in one place at one time. So it was really interesting to explore what people were doing.
Yeah,
and there were a lot of there was quite a big melting pot actually. Paul, you'll be happy to know 0 salamanders present. So it was quite a big melting pot really, and it was quite interesting to see kind of the overall meta. But like I said, I think maybe we'll touch on that at the end when we come
but we also managed to play 8 armies, right? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
So yeah, that was it was interesting.
Cool. Right then, let's go.
Let's do it. Send it.
So, Rob, this is your game one.
So we
played
Dan and Callum, and we played Mechanicum and Alpha Legion. Now, so
we were playing Onslaught, weren't we? Is that right?
Yeah, we were playing Dawn of War and Onslaught. Yeah, so we had to grab the objective in each other's deployment zone. So you can see, basically, we went for opposite. The objective is in the opposite person's deployment zone in the corners on the right and the left hand side. I went in thinking that mech. I hadn't played mech yet, and I went in thinking mech were not as tasty or a bit shitter than they usually were, because I'd seen so many mech players crying like little bitches online, being like, wow, my mech army is as good as it used to be. Wow. They're still fucking amazing. Like but what they've lost in close combat prowess, they've maintained in their shooting prowess. And what mech have and continue to have, which the Legion's list lost quite a lot of, is large blasts at low AP. And I think that the Thanatar is just a really good example of the way in which that, again, it can continue to delete units when that pie plate lands on you. They obviously have cybertheurgy, and they continue to have cybertheurgy, so things can they can use their magical mechanicum spells or whatever the fuck that is to be able to kind of either double tap or whatever, and that it just requires a leadership test now. That most of the time it just goes off because the Archmagus has like a leadership of 10, so there wasn't anything to worry about. I was a bit disappointed that, like with the previous cybertheurgy, there was a modifier to the particular thing that you were trying to do. So if it was a really good kind of cybertheurgy power or whatever, there was like a -5 modifier to it, against your leadership, but that doesn't seem to kind of exist anymore, which I think is a bit of a shame. You can see in the terms of deployment, so Harry deployed on the left hand side of the table from where we're looking, and I deployed on the right hand side of the table. I had a squad with Abaddon, Reaver Chieftains, great unit. That was a really stellar unit actually, and a Warmonger in Deep Strike. And I hid Assault Marines behind the Bastion because they were just going to hop out and grab the objective. And I would say that's all Assault Marines are fucking good for. They're only good for objective hopping. Don't use them for assault despite their name, because they just get torn to shit. Like they really didn't perform very well. But we took kind of left and right flank. The Dan and Callum got first turn, and they immediately started opening up on that Lascanna squad, and it was deleted by the end of first game turn. And so that meant that our army lost most of its ranged firepower, and so it meant we had to go into close combat. Well, you can see on the table there just the blob of the Mechanicum, Thanatars, Thalexes, Contemptors that are together that Harry had to go into, and then from there it was pretty hairy. I think Harry was quite confident that he could probably sort of mop up Contemptors and Thanatars, certainly with Khan with his murder strike weapon, but he couldn't, and I think Khan ended up dying sort of turn 3 or turn 4. And he was, I think Harry was actually tabled. I think he lost all the in fact I'm almost certain he was tabled by sort of turn 3 or turn 4. I had Abaddon's unit kind of deep strike down and kind of on the other side of the board, and was able to take off these Alpha Legion guys. But from there, by turn 4, it became a bit of a stalemate, really, because it was obvious I could get the objective and I was going to hold it, and then the Ultramarine Suzerain squad was going to get the objective on the opposite side of the table, and then that was just kind of it, really. I was just hiding my models, and because the Chieftains, Abaddon, and the Warmonger are heavy units continue to be super slow. Like anything in Cataphractial with a Breacher Shield is just cannot move up the board particularly quickly unless they're sort of reacting. So I wasn't going to be able to get any charges off by turn 4 or 5. So it was just a bit of a stalemate. And so the lads, Dan and Callum, won on secondaries. I think it was 7 to them and 5 to us, because they got Slay the Warlord from Khan, and they got attrition as well, because they managed to kill a fair amount of
units.
It was a good game nonetheless, and I learned a lot about the Mechanicum from that game, but the Mechanicum shooting prowess remains. Is one of the biggest things I'd say.
Right, awesome. Did you play Mechanicum at any other point in the weekend?
No, I don't think I did. No,
Cool.
No, I don't think I did.
Cool. Awesome. Right then. John Askham.
Cool. Right. So we had Will and I had I think this was the most balanced game that we played all day. So we played a gentleman who a lot of you in the British scene will be familiar with, Tonka, who is kind of a real staple. I've played Tonka many times before, but only ever with his word bearers. He was taking an Iron Warriors list, so it was a bit of a mirror match. And then his partner was Jamie Fox, who was taking a Stone Gauntlet Imperial Fists list. So bearing in mind that we, the Iron Squared team, the Iron Brothers, we had a huge unit of breachers with Ferris. He had 3 huge units of breachers with Fafnir Ran, and then the opposing teams were some shooty Iron Warriors versus some shooty Iron Warriors. I think Tonka was quite restricted by what he took, by what he has. His Iron Warriors is kind of quite small by comparison. So from memory, he had a big unit of Tat Marines, a unit of Tartarus Terminators. He had some heavy bolt of rapiers and a couple of vindicators, and then Jamie had a Fafnir around, I think 2-3 units of phalanx warders, 2 units of phalanx warders, a unit of breachers, and a breacher command squad. So much like Rob's game, we had the objective markers in each other's deployment zones, kind of like opposing diagonally table quarters. So we had essentially a hammer and an anvil each. So because it was staged deployment, it was kind of quite like it ended up with the Iron Hands facing off against the Iron Warriors and the Stone Gauntlet facing off against me. It was pretty evident, sort of quite soon into the game, that we were going to claim their objective and they were going to claim ours. Like we couldn't stop. You can't slow down that Stone Gauntlet. They're just too survivable. And you also can't slow down Ferris and a unit of 20 breaches. Like you just can't do it. So we very early on just played for secondaries. There was additional points for destroying units in the first turn. And we were having night fighting as well. So I took advantage of that by using my siege breaker to give my auto cannon team sunder. They're taking out one of the Vindicators. The auto cannons hitting on 2s in an Iron Warriors list with their effective strength 8 with rending and sunder is just unreal. That unit had provided such good utility all weekend. Like it was the best unit to use. Didn't feel like overpowered, but it felt very, very strong. And then the Tyrants went after the Rapier team, so we scored a couple of extra victory points in the first turn, and it really did become like the Iron Warriors trying to slow the Iron Hands down, and then my Iron Warriors trying to speed bump the Stone Gauntlet. Stone Gauntlet is fucking oppressive as a rite of war. I do genuinely think that I think if you're looking at rights of war specifically, not just Legion rules and stuff, it's just harsh. You know, I was having to sort of sacrifice. You try and utilize like entire heavy weapons teams, especially the Iron Havocs with their precision shots on 6s, just to sort of pick the apothecaries out of the units, just to give some degree of ability to kind of mitigate one of the damage mitigation rolls. But then you've still got shrouded from reactions as well. We did have a wonderful moment where I thought that I had sniped Fafnir ran out of his command squad until Jamie realised he was making a 4 vulnerable save as opposed to a 5 vulnerable save. So, but there was a slim period where I thought that I'd pluck that boy out. But honestly, it was a relatively. It went to 5 turns. It was quite a sort of slow and attritional game. I think in the end we ran out 8-5 victors. So we scored each other's objective, and then we got 3 points on secondaries, I think, for attrition.
Right.
The first 10 kills. So that was that.
Nice. Awesome. Cool. Right then. Game 2. John, let's you first again. Sorry, mate.
Hold on. I might have got this wrong. Was this game 2? Rob, I think this is actually technically my game 3. Apologies. We've got
it's right.
slight
to the
intermission.
That's cool.
For game 2.
We'll come back to this one.
We'll come back to this one. Okay.
Yeah, we will.
So, Rob, talk us through your game 2, please, mate.
No, I can't talk you through this game 2 because this is game 2 on my. This is game 4. Oh no, this is game 3.
Yes. Game 2. Maybe
just fast forward. Just go. Keep going.
That's the one we.
That's the one we won.
This one you want, right?
No,
cool.
No, that's not the one. Fucking hell, Paul.
Oh,
You're the one. You guys send me all these on WhatsApp and tell me which ones were which.
Yeah, I did it right, Paul.
No, you didn't.
If you go back to where you were, and then back one.
Hey.
Right.
Oh no.
So this one.
No.
One more.
You want me to go backwards or forwards?
Forwards. 1. There you go.
That's the one. We want you stone. Okay.
All right.
So we're there. Right. This is game 2.
Cool.
The same game 3. So I did everything I could possibly to try and avoid this game and not play Will and John because I knew what would happen. Even when me and Paul were playing, I knew that basically I just didn't want to play this army. And I love you, John and Will, but fucking hell, like our friend Adam made a really good point about the list and the list building, which was that basically with the way that the list was set up, you could just maximize the things within your army that were particularly good within your legion. So doing it this way within the pairs and within one force organization chart, you lost a lot of nuance around an overall 3,000 point list, and it just meant that you could take the best of what both legions were able to take. And I think that these guys knew exactly what they were doing. They optimized the list to the nth degree, and the amount of firepower was just sort of indiscriminate. Really, it was a thing to behold. It wasn't particularly an interesting game for both sides, and because I think John was just it was a fairly non-event really for John, because it was just sort of able to shoot things, and then there was a piece of line of slight blocking terrain that kind of was in the way. But me and Harry just fed Will and his large squad of Ferrus Manus and Breachers. We just fed him our army, and they just demolished it, basically. Like, Khan was able to get through a fair amount of it. Contemptors would be able to take it down, but Ferrus Manus is an absolute beast of a Primarch. And we did find that challenges were a thing that could really shut down characters. Like, they obviously are important for combat resolution, but the changes to challenges now is something that you need to be really aware of, I think, when accepting if you're accepting with a Primarch, or if you're accepting with a character. I can guarantee that those people who play to win will accept with their sergeants as opposed to accepting with their Primarchs, right? So I think that that's just something that came up as a common theme throughout the event. I think it was really over by turn 1, but it was I think properly over by turn 3.
Yeah.
And I think that it just sums up that close combat armies cannot compete with kind of massed heavy shoot.
Okay.
So this was quite a sobering experience, this game. Not only because Will and I had been drinking, we'd had 3 bottles of Prosecco in our first game and over lunch. But this for me was, without a shadow of a doubt, the single worst game of Warhammer I have ever been involved in, because I had 0 fun. And if I had 0 fun and I was on the end of the correct end of an absolutely crushing victory, then I can only imagine how little fun Rob and Harry had. I got to roll dice for 1 shooting phase. I got to roll dice for 1 turn. After that turn, everything was either dead or in close combat, and that was it. And then I was just free to do whatever I wanted for the rest of the day, because it was just done. Like, poor old Harry, when in like the first turn, like, I blew up the Spartan and the Sakaran and
the last cannons, I think, were gone as well.
Oh yeah, and the last cannon team as well. Yeah,
right.
And it was just,
Harry didn't have much of an army left by the end of turn 1.
No, Rob
Bloody
did,
hell.
but most of it walked or tried to jump.
It failed miserably. I think but you guys knew what list you were taking, right? I mean,
100%.
The idea that you're kind of, or that you would ever say, "Oh, sorry, Gov, I didn't know what I
Oh no. I'm not. There's no.
You knew that
there's no apologizing before the fact.
Yeah.
We just didn't think we'd necessarily. The simple fact of it as well, in our game 1, like, it was quite genuinely was quite tight. We kind of had an army that I had maybe not quite as well optimized, but super powerful. We just didn't realize we'd come up against something kind of quite so weak.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, which is that all legions, I think, are not, and certainly all rights of war are not created equally. So the fact that it took a Imperial Fists Stone Gauntlet army to test the metal of the Iron Warriors Iron Hands combo goes to show how powerful both combinations are together.
But bear in mind, we weren't running a Rite of War; we were just running.
No, exactly. So I think that that it just. And I think it just, for me, is just about close combat, and just close combat being dev ready. I mean, it again as well. I think that I had a deep striking unit. I don't think they even bothered to come on, to be honest. Because I think by that point it was a foregone conclusion. But again, a deep striking Day of Revelations Blood Angels list against this, it just wouldn't have survived. It would have got blown off the table. It would have
been the worst. It would have been an even worse game than this.
Exactly, and I think that the heavy support squads are just too strong. Infantry heavy support squads, or particularly, are just too strong. And actually, I think that this is a good example where if you take vehicles, you are knocking back the prowess of your army. And I think that taking vehicles is a very good way, and not dreadnoughts. I don't mean dreadnoughts. I mean an actual tank is a very good way to ensure that your list is probably a bit more balanced. And I think that is interesting. I avoided the game, or I tried to avoid this game, because I knew what would happen on paper. It was so obvious to see what would occur. But Harry was fully committed to this. Fully committed to
It's because he wanted to give us the COVID, because he as a punishment.
Yes, Nurgle rot. But I it was what it was. But I think it just further entrenched my thoughts that this is the shooting edition.
Yeah, well, like I said, so we've obviously got the next event I'm attending is the Heresy Hammer event hosted by Rob in November, and I am taking 0 heavy support squads, 0 Iron Havoc squads, and 0 siege tyrants.
Good for you.
That's how much this game has had an effect on me.
Good,
interesting,
good plan. I like that.
Yes,
cool. Shall we go to game 3?
Yeah, we'll try and work out what game 3 is.
Okay, so I'm going to go back.
Go back. Good idea. Perfect. Crack on. Oh, there we go. So this is my game 3. We played Alpha Legion and Mechanicum. So we played Chris Gibson, who's very well known in the UK scene, and a gentleman called John Booth, who I've not played before, but was absolutely wonderful.
Chris got best sport, did he?
Chris and John got best sports. We voted for them. We thought they were not for any particular reason, not because the other games weren't good. This one was just so many fun little things happened. It was just kind of it created a really kind of it was just a really good, interesting game. So this, I can't remember which mission we were playing. Doesn't even matter. It was not Dominion. One of the other Red Book missions that we didn't play or had played. So it was scoring in various deployment zones, no man's land, and yours and your opponent's scoring deployment zones. So the Mechanicum list consisted of an Archmagos and a Magos, a big unit of Castellax, 2 Vulturax, a Thanatar with the Siege Moor. I forget what it's called down in the new book, and I should know because I have 2. And then a Thanatar Calyx. And then the Alpha Legion list was a Vigilator, Alfarius, a big unit of Tartarus Terminators, and a big unit of Cataphracti Terminators, and a Dreadnought, Alfarius, and all of in fact, everything apart from the Vigilator was deep striking. First turn, the Vigilator stepped up, tried to snipe out the sergeant from my las cannon team who had the augury scanner, just to stop him from getting from intercepting when Alfarius and the boys came in. He missed, and then I returned fire and killed the Vigilator. So,
why bother shooting? Why bother shooting out the site? Get a return fire.
Technically, Chris was tabled at that point, but obviously, that would have led to an awful game. I mean, we did try and semi-enforce it for about 2 minutes, but we thought this is not actually that. This is not fair. Even as a joke, this is beyond funny.
It's quite a brave list of Chris to take, I think.
Yeah.
Like deep striking Alpharius and deep striking Terminators is definitely like, it's definitely cool, but it's like the least optimized thing.
Oh,
Just
yes.
get blown
Dumb
off
as
the
fuck.
fucking board. Yeah.
Chris had a single target in mind, which was not to win the game, but it was just to kill Ferrus Manus.
Right. Did he manage it?
We'll come to that in a second.
I was going to say, I'm interested to know what happened. Yeah.
So obviously, I occupied our territory. I sort of defended our territory. So I used sort of a lot of units to block areas where there was quite a lot of terrain on this board as well. So I used a lot of units to sort of block areas where Alpharius and the boys could potentially deep strike. Same thing with the Aegis line, and then just making sure I had lots of sort of covering fire should he decide to pop it down. But it became very clear he was just like, I just want to kill Ferrus Manus.
Yeah.
I don't care about winning the game. Just want to kill Ferrus Manus. So I just sort of set about trying to kill some Mechanicum stuff. I think John's army was tabled by the end, but realistically, it was all about Alpharius and his boys didn't even come in until turn 4.
Oh,
I know, right? Just a perpetual series of ones for reserve rolls. Will lost a couple of bits. I think he lost the conversion beam of dread to the Thanatar Calyx, which is really good now. It's got way better. Now they've just stopped making that las cannon just a standard las cannon. Like it's got a lot better. And it's also got blind now. So it blinded the conversion beam dread twice, I think, which is really good. Was it blind or just shut? No, it's got the neutron pulse just to sort of shut it down like a neutron blaster or the Cerberus does. Not blind, Darkfire, it's got blind. So Ferrus and his big unit of boys sort of marched into the middle of the board, got shot at by everything, got sort of slowly whittled down until it was only about half a dozen, maybe 10 of them left, Ferrus and the two characters. Then Alpharius and all the boys sort of sprung their trap, everything charged in, and Alpharius is pretty good on the charge.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he genuinely he gets like bonuses to his initiative and stuff on the charge. So he's typically going first, and he gets bonuses to his weapon skill as well because of his warlord trait.
I think he's a really good Primarch actually.
Yeah. So Alpharius charges in and challenges Ferrus. Ferrus declines, and then the Breacher Sergeant steps up.
And that like is just that just sums up. Like again, I love Will and I love you, John, but that just sums up the.
Hey, don't fucking bring me into this.
Yeah, you have a Primarch against Primarch, and it's just like no. I'm gonna accept with the Sergeant and essentially shut down because those attacks won't spill onto Ferrus, and it doesn't matter about combat resolution there because Ferrus is fearless. So it basically shuts down a Primarch, and I think that like the current state of the challenge rules is if it can do that, it's not in a good place. I think
the problem that it left with, because obviously Alpharius gets obviously buffs on the turn that he charges. So going forwards, obviously Ferrus is both a high initiative and a higher weapon skill, and he strikes with Forge Breaker at initiative, unlike fucking Perturabo, the chump who strikes with it at initiative at 1. Just bursted. But what it actually meant was because there were still a couple of guys like normal breaches left in the unit, everything else that charged in, as you can see there, we had the Terminators go, we had the Dreadnought go in, we had the Archmagos go in. They were striking against the majority of weapon skill. So I think in the end it was the Dreadnought that just punched through the middle of Ferrus and took him down. But he did die for the indignity of declining the challenge.
Good. Fucking
good. Wanker.
It was an Iron Brothers win in the end. But yeah, realistically, Ferrus died and Alpharius survived, so the boys were happy.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a shame. So I know a little bit about Deep Strike, but not a full-on Deep Strike assault. So you've got more than one unit deep striking with Alpharius. Do you still roll for that then, or I thought
No, it doesn't count as a deep strike assault in so much as like the book does. It's just he and 3 units can deep strike can be put into deep strike. So it's just like it would be the same as a bad and deep striking, for instance.
You have to roll
He
for
just-
roll
yeah.
for the unit. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Right. Okay. Yeah. So you need some in order if your army of 1,500 points is off the table, you need some reserve manipulation there, don't you? Really?
Yeah, I mean, and also I had a Vox disruptor for my Master of Signals as well. So I had the reserve manipulation. It's just the fact it belonged to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, also as well, don't just set up one vigilator.
Yeah.
That's what we've learned from this. Don't set up just one vigilator.
Yeah, it will just get blown off the table.
Correct.
Absolutely.
In his turn.
Yeah, interesting. But it's amazing how much it took to bring down Ferrus Manus, though.
It took everything to bring down.
Yeah.
The problem is you've got to wade through the bodies as well. So obviously he's got he's got 20 breaches with him that get feel no pain because he's in the unit. So yeah, that was part of the hard part as well. So invulnerable saves and then feel no pain.
Yeah.
And pseudo toughness 5.
Interesting. What can men do against such reckless
hate?
Yes.
It turns out punch him with a dreadnought.
Get a dreadnought in there.
Answer, get a dreadnought.
Rule 3.
Check him with a dreadnought.
Good job. Cool. Rob, is this your game 3?
This is my game 3. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So
here we go.
This was so after the game 2 from the previous day, this one was certainly more ballanted, and it was a great opportunity to go against White Scars. So just to say as well, all 4 armies here won best loyalist armies and best traitor armies as well. This is an award-winning
deservedly so as
yes.
well. These were the best 4 armies. I think if you are talking about the best armies, these were the best armies. They were the hobby standard, by the way, it's fair to say, was unbelievable.
Yeah,
like,
it was nuts.
Everything was a 7 out of 10. Like there are a couple of things I think had been maybe kind of hurriedly got together for it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this was.
Yeah, even Harry's job actually won an award. Like, can you imagine if he spent time on it?
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Yeah. Wow.
So this was the first time I had played White against White Scars for many a year, and certainly first time in this edition, and the first time I played against Imperial Fists. But I knew all their tricksy maneuvers. What I again, this was another thing where White Scars players, I'd heard nothing but the cries of White Scars players being like, because their Legion rule wasn't great. The +1 movement or whatever it is actually pretty good. And they are so fucking maneuverable and nippy that it's very, very hard to get them in close combat, to kind of get to get into close combat, because by the time you move they've just reacted away, and they just shoot you from very far away. And it was also the first time that I'd seen the White Scars advanced reaction in action, and that thing is nuts, right? Because it's you kind of declare it from one unit, and then that anything within range of that one unit can then move. So it does mean if you conga line one unit in a White Scars army out, you can just move basically your whole army up or whatever. And it was pretty remarkable the maneuverability that Mike had. The other thing though that I quickly learned is that it's such a good feeling to smash a fucking bike into the ground with a power fist now, which is what you couldn't do before, because they were toughness 5, and if they were multi-wound models. Now that they're like a 3-up save and a toughness 4, despite the fact that they've got more than 1 wound, it's really satisfying just to fucking pulverize them. So if they get caught in close combat, I think it's very difficult for the bikes to win, but they do have hit and run. So it was good. So this one was Dominion. So we were fighting for the kind of the it was Dawn of War deployment, and we were fighting for our deployment, the No Man's Land and their deployment. Theirs was obviously worse. More No Man's Land was in the middle, and ours was the least. Tanks are also scoring in there, and we had a few tanks kind of from everybody's each side had a few more. So we felt like we were a bit in with a fighting chance of them than we were before. And what do we do? We just kind of advanced up, really. We just tried to get into close combat with them. Our army, just kind of moved up. And they got first turn, though. So the bikes came hurling at us. We moved up, and it was a game of cat and mouse, I thought, all throughout really. And then this, you can see on the second picture in the center, just some stunning and amazing kind of actions from the White Scarf player. So the Golden Keshi came and kind of destroyed the Spartan, and the Khan squad was kind of out in the open. And then you had kind of multiple assaults going off, eventually with two dreadnoughts going into close combat with each other, one of mine and then Ollie's, and then basically mutually assured destruction, where both of them get exploded and then take out a fuck ton of Harry's rampagers. And I think, again, explosions now are just so fucking
savage,
lethal, especially on 2 wound models. Like, it's just you roll a 1 or a 2, it's gone. It's completely annihilated that unit. So I think just be careful with close combats, particularly with dreadnoughts that are of equal kind of prowess, because they're just going to kill each other. Like, there's no, with the brutal, there's just so many saves that you have to make. You just can't make enough. So you're just going to blow each other up, and as a result, it's just like a nuclear blast going off in the middle of your army. But Khan was killed again, like greedy little bitch that he is. Harry went in, I think, soloed it, and Khan got fucking splattered and killed. And he's not got Eternal Warrior, so I think he died to a blast or something like that, or a fucking brutal fist or something like that. But he's got to make those saves, and it doesn't necessarily, he's got to make the attacks, and if you whiff him, that's it, really. Brutal power fist to the face really fucks things up. Excuse me. And you can see, yet again, priority number 1, the last cannon squad on the left hand side, it was just torn apart in that first turn.
Okay.
Unable to do much. The other thing I would say, so Harry again kind of got picked apart with his army, but Abaddon's squad that came in did do an awful lot of damage to Mike initially, and they managed to get a multi-charge off out of the deep strike, and assaulted 3 different units, eventually kind of got rid of those units, and then they went after Pollux's unit. Well, it's really the Sons of Horus rule combined with Abaddon's battle hardened makes it really tough for even a strength 10 power fist to kill Abaddon, and that kind of saved me on the initial kind of round of combat, and then eventually we were able to kind of pick off that unit. But the Reaver Chieftains, if you're a Sons of Horror player, I would really look into the Reaver Chieftains as a kind of like a bodyguard unit or a command retinue for a character, because I think they really did make their points back. I think Deep Strike is an option for them, but I think you'd probably be better putting them in a Proteus with a character. Yeah, and then the other thing I would say is that this is the first time I was really on the receiving end of heavy conversion beamers. Man alive, they are good. They are really good. Like the strength 12 AP1, if you can get it off and get the range off as well, like it's just fucking brutal. And it makes up for the fact that the Legion's lost a lot of large blast low AP, and I'm concerned that all our mates are going to just put fucking heavy conversion beamers on everything now, because they were particularly potent. At even close to, they're at strength 7, which is nothing to be sniffed at. But these guys managed to win. So yeah, Ollie and Mike managed to win just because they had more maneuverable units by the end of the game that were able to kind of claim more objectives than us. But from what I recall, it was fairly close. But they won it.
Sounds good.
Good game though. It was good. It was a nice tactical game, and Mike, I think it was one of his first few games, so he was kind of learning along the way as well.
Happy days. John, you strike me as the kind of guy who's going to go balls to the wall with conversion beamers now.
I don't think I am. I think I'm part of the anti-conversion beamer meta.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in so much as you need to deploy everything on the line. Rob is right though. Like even at close range, just forcing those blind checks is most normal guys being like initiative 4, like forcing those blind checks is so harsh.
Yeah.
I think to be honest, I'm all about Volkite Preds. I mean, go and listen to the Patreon Tactica we did, because it's kind of, obviously it's discussed there, but I think my inevitable Predator squadron is going to be all Volkite all the time.
Good defensive weapons, though, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Nice. Cool. And then the last games of the day.
So this was us. So this was the only game that we had first term, and it really did make a difference. So Harry had I think so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he had 16 las cannons in his force, which is pretty good. But basically, because we had got second turn on all our games prior to this, and by the time that the first turn was over, basically nothing was able to use them because it was destroyed. It was completely useless. Whereas this one, we got first turn, and Harry and his las cannons, particularly that Sakaran, fucking cleaned up. So we went against Giles and Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Tom took an armored breakthrough list for his Iron Hands, and so he basically had 2 tac squads in Rhinos, I think 3 or 4 Preds, a Kratos, and a Sakaran, or maybe 2 Sakaran. No, just 1 Sakaran, I think.
Well, he had his tank commander and a Sakaran, and then I think another Sakaran, yeah.
Yeah, and then that's it. Yeah, so he had two Skarans. So he took, I thought, one of the most interesting of all the lists that were there.
Yeah, if we were playing for pink slips, his was the one that I wanted to take home. Like, not only had he painted it brilliantly, but it just looked like, I looked around and everyone who was sort of pushing boxes around all day, and they looked like they were having loads more fun. So yeah, I would have wanted to have put that in my.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. And then so he was kind of like backfield. You can see on the picture on the right hand side there, and then Giles's army, the Mechanicum, kind of was up front. Giles was taking an Archmagos with a ton of Myrmidons. The shooty kind, I think. They had Grav and Plasma Fusils, I think. That's what?
Yeah, Plasma Fusel.
And then a couple of squads of Thalax as well. So one was deep striking, one was in. The las cannons from Harry made short work of Tom's army. It was just literally a matter of kind of Harry had an extraordinary amount of luck, and it was just literally like, I see that tank there, it will be destroyed. Next second, it was gone. Mm-hmm. And I think that Tom kind of, his army was just picked apart. And then if it wanted to fire, it wasn't able to fire because it had just been a tank next to it. It just exploded and then got a kind of a pen result on next. So it was pretty. It wasn't. I think Tom had a good time, but he was just literally watching tanks just blah 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 blah.
Right.
So the real kind of hammer of the force though was Giles's, and yet again we were on the receiving end of a ton of Mechanicum firepower. The Plasma Fusils, which I think they are breaching 4 up, so they're AP3 but breaching 4 up, are devastating. Then combined with the Grav, which just slows down charges and just gets a ton of hits. I thought we were done with that with this edition, but it's so fucking clunky. when you got like a squad of 7 of them, it's just 7 blast templates, creating fucking dangerous and difficult terrain. And as a result, Harry went in for a charge into the Archmagos squad with these 7 Myrmidons and this Archmagos, and his entire squad just got decimated. The only person that was alive was Khan, and then Khan went in, and then Khan was killed. And that was it really. Then Harry had some kind of las cannons and he was picking things apart in the Scarran. But in terms of the close combat, that was it for us really. Like, we couldn't do anything about that unit, and that unit just plagued us for the entire game. And we just kind of left it alone, really. I was just running away from it, trying to get out of line of sight because there was nothing that could be done against it. It was a really devastating squad. But again, sums up, and I know I've said it like 1,000 times, just sums up how difficult it is for close combat armies to get into a tough shooting army. But nonetheless, it was a fantastic game. And Abaddon's squad did some work, but the fact that it was scoring was the one of the main kind of aspects of it, because it was scoring unit, and then the assault squad was scoring as well. And we managed to get, I think, one War of Lies objective, and I think I rolled a 6 for it. So we were able to walk away with a victory from that game. So that was our only victory for the Greetings event. It was a good game, but I think that it was a more balanced, the previous game, Ollie's and Mike's. The armies were more balanced, so it felt like we were fighting for every inch of land that we took. But it was really good. But I think that if we had had better luck going first turn on more of our games, with the exception of John's and Will's, I think that it might have gone a little bit differently.
A little bit different.
I think so, yeah. Just because Harry had so many last cannons.
Yeah. Did Tom's Kratos get up to much?
It blew up and died because Abaddon assaulted it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, of course.
No, it didn't do it. From memory, it didn't do too much.
It wasn't putting out a lot of work. Okay.
No, I think it got kind of my unit deep struck turn 2 quite close to it. And then I just assaulted it. I think that is the thing about deep strike now, which is that if you can manage to deep strike out of interceptor, kind of, with line of sight, and use line of sight, and you're brave about where you put it, you can get some good charges off. Like, it is like assaulting from deep strike is fucking amazing, and it's what it should have been in version 1.0, but it's just that augury scanners kind of just make it very, very difficult to make it work, I think, is the thing.
Uh-huh. Cool. Right then, John, your last game of the day.
Cool.
The week, I should say.
Nice and quickly. So we again played Ollie and Mike. No need to go into their armies. The fucking best army there by a country mile. It was unreal. So we are again playing War of Lies. So we deployed, ended up sort of deploying quite aggressively. I think it was a bit of a funny one. So we had Ollie had 2 conversion beam of Preds, and Will had a double conversion beam of Dreadnought that sort of set up in a sort of opposing diagonal corners, sort of facing off against each other. But we were both a little bit concerned about everything else being sort of within range of the bigger, higher strength blasts. So we went second, I think, in every single game, including this one. Rob talked about Power Fist being quite a hard counter in close combat to jet bikes. I'll let you into a little secret about what's an even harder counter in the shooting phase, and that is Siege Tyrants.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the fact that they're toughness 4 with a 3-up save.
Yeah.
I mean, just don't shoot them. Mike shot them. I did forewarn him that it was probably going to be more one-sided than he anticipated, and not necessarily a side that befitted him. But nonetheless, he was like, look, they're going to get fucked up anyway, so I might as well try and do something first off. So he had Volkites and all of his jet bikes. They fired, I think they killed half of a Siege Tyrant, might have killed one entire one. I obviously returned fire. Ollie made the point to Mike that because they're only AP3, he should try and tank the wounds on his Delegatus. So I think I caused like 9 wounds out of the 20 shots returning back. The first roll that he took in the Delegatus was a 1, so the Delegatus was dead, and then everything else fell over, which is not necessarily ideal. Ferris Manus killed the Dreadnought blowing up killed a load of breaches, like a load of breaches. It was absolutely devastating if memory serves. We were also night fighting on this one as well, so I utilized the siege breakers ability to ignore night fighting, and the master signal's ability to ignore night fighting, and the siege breakers sunder on the autocannon squad to take down the 2 conversion beam preds. So dealt with them pretty quickly. Ferris basically just sort of sat in the middle munching on stuff. Mike made a really nice play actually. He brought they identified that the conversion beam dreadnought in the back corner was going to be a bit of a problem, so they need to deal with that swiftly. So Mike charged 2 units, a unit of jet bikes and a unit of the Golden Keshig into another one of the Contemptors, and then used hit and run to slingshot them like an extra 13 inches forwards, like up the board. A really nice little play. That I think, because of the way people have always kind of tended to want to play hit and run, is sort of always almost used as sort of coming in, doing something, and then retreating. But he used it to great effect to sort of to pile himself. His effective threat range, including his charge, was about movement was about 30 inches. It was absolutely wonderful. The stellar moment of the game was, and kind of unfortunately, kind of really put into microcosm just how powerful shooting, especially shooting reactions, can be. Ollie deep struck Pollux and his Vets unit onto one of the War of Lies objectives that sat behind that big pile of crates that you can see in the top right of the second picture, and he scattered the other side of the crates. But no bother, so because he could obviously re-roll it and end up scattering further the other side.
Oh no!
Okay, right.
At which point, the siege tyrants and the las cannon havocs intercepted them. Now, most of the las cannon havocs had been lost to the first round of shooting from the conversion beamer predators. There were 4 guys left, and I intercepted. Rolled 4 hits, of which one was a 6, popped that 6 onto Pollux, who immediately failed his invulnerable save and died. And then everything else finished off, mopped up the rest of the units. I think from a unit of 11 guys, including Pollux, he had just 2 normal guys left. I think actually I might have even got a second precision shot with the autocannon havocs and taken out the sergeant and the guy with the Vexilla as well. But anyway, they sort of retreated back off the board. I think realistically, in the end, we just spent the rest of the game sort of mopping things up. Being War of Lies, they kept a couple of units back just to hide objectives because you don't necessarily kind of know what's going to happen. Ferris went off on a wild goose chase, just chasing down individual characters that sort of fucked off. And it was a relatively comfortable win for myself and Will in the end. I think this was the game that really highlighted just how powerful this shooting reactions can be, because there were, I mean, Ollie had an opposing autocannon heavy support squad, and he was considering whether or not to target my units. And that feels, when you're making those decisions, that feels like there's maybe a little bit much going on. And the fact that I think within that game turn, my autocannon unit got to react twice, maybe even 3 times. Like, it got to shoot in my phase, I got to react as an intercept reaction, and then I got to react as a return fire reaction. I don't think they were ever charged. Oh no, fuck, they were charged. Yeah, because you had a unit and a rhino that snuck around the back. So they're essentially firing 4 times in one game turn, and they're pretty optimized in terms of sort of punch for points. And I think that's we do need to probably have a little think kind of medium term about how we govern shooting reactions specifically, because this is a game that rewards shooting, and then what we're doing is rewarding those better shooting units by making them be able to shoot multiple times. It does it really did feel, and obviously like they were good sports about it, and sniping out a character with a las cannon from an intercepting is always going to be funny, like gave me a lot of joy. But I think realistically we probably need to have a little bit of a conversation at some point if the meta doesn't adjust. Now I fully expect the meta to adjust, because I fully expect, like, next time we go to an event, I think tanks are going to be everywhere, because we're going to have the Sakaar and the Pred, the Land Raider plastic kits. And I think that the meta will naturally adjust. Like, I'm not going to be running like heavy shooting going forwards, because unless something happens, because it's just too boring.
It's interesting as well. I think that one of the things that happens, particularly with Heresy, is that it's very rare that you see a unit with just 5 lascans, right?
Yeah,
it's
correct.
Often like it's often maxed out, or if it's not maxed out, then it's like 8 or 9, because you couldn't quite squeeze it in, but you really wanted to.
Exactly, that's why I had
precisely.
Exactly. And I think that is another interesting thing. So I think that why, when we talk about the brutal devastation of lascannons, autocannons, or siege turrets, why is it that kind of we feel that we need to max it out? Perhaps just a bit of we can take those units, but we just go, well, actually we just cap them at 5. Like, you can't take any more than 5. Or and that would be quite a simple solution, rather than saying heavy squads can't react or whatever. But yeah, I think that in its current state, without an errata, it does require some self-regulation. I think a quick way, an easy way to do it, is just to take tanks. But I think, exactly as you said, John, where you are considering firing at a unit and just going, what's the fucking point of firing at this unit, because I'm just going to get destroyed. I think that at that point there's something not quite right. They've tried to make,
it's got a bit too far.
They've tried to make shooting interesting, and it's gone way too far the other way. It's got, like, shooting is just too powerful at the moment.
Yeah, that's cool. Excellent. Well, it sounds like you guys had a good time anyway.
Yeah, it was good. A good learning experience.
Like you say, getting to play doubles with playing, seeing how lots of other legions are acting as well. It's pretty cool, how they're playing and things like that. I think we've kind of touched on the meta and how where you guys think the game is at the moment. Having been to this event, I don't think we really need to go into that anymore, unless you boys have got anything you want to add about lists or
just too many guns, not enough tanks.
Yeah, cool. I think that's it. I think that
draw a line for it.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to see more tanks on the tabletop, as much as we saw in 1.0.
Yeah,
but, I mean, it's obvious why. It was loads of infantry, which people will be like, oh, that's so heresy. There's so much infantry. But it might be so fucking narrative and heresy, but also it doesn't make for the best game.
If the game, it's not helping the game, then
So I think that would be interesting to see. A couple of really brave lists. I thought there were some really brave choices going in, particularly the Ultramarines and Toms. I thought was great.
Cool.
It was really cool. It was a cool event. And you can see the one on the left-hand side. That's Tom's there. That really brave, really interesting.
Loved it. I loved it so much.
Yeah,
he knocked that out in good record
really
time as well. I think
it's
crazy. Yeah, bearing in mind the guy has quite a busy life. That's great to see. It's awesome. I'm gutted I wasn't there.
Any more picks?
We've got a couple more from Armies on Prey.
Look
at this bad boy.
You didn't play this one, did you, John? This Neil's.
No, mate, it wouldn't even last the turn. And that was the thing. I was kind of quite looking forward to playing. I knew, because we were grudged up. The thing about playing with Will is he's always got a target on his back. So he already had 4 games lined up before we even rocked up. So, but it was balanced by the fact that the Imperial Fist player took an assault squad just to knock it back a little bit.
Just to take the edge off it. Just to
that Porphyro, and this is the thing, right? That Porphyro, and I was like fucking rubbing my hands together, because that thing would have lasted no time.
Yeah,
one shooting phase, it would have been done.
I think the thing is, it's devastating, but it can't react. Can it? I'm not. Well, I don't know if it can react or not. But
I don't really care. It doesn't really matter.
It will be dead.
Just got back, exactly.
Yeah, and then this was
dead.
Yeah, this is the Ultramarines Ultramarines list, which was basically a carbon copy of Tom's Justice's kind of different sponsor and turret weapons. I thought it was a really cool looking army. I really liked the extra effort with the like the force organization chart that they created.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Really awesome.
Yeah, got a lot of time for that.
Yeah, I thought that it was great. Those guys did a really cool job. I think like it was interesting that Mechanicum and like an armored breakthrough list was like it was the same for Jars, Mechanicum and armored breakthrough. Perhaps
there's loads of mech there as well. There were what, half a dozen mech armies at least.
I think it was one of the more popular of the armies. Yeah, definitely.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
That's Chris Gibson's
and Chris's. Again, another
cool.
brave looking list. That one.
Yeah,
it's cool. And then Giles was one there.
Oh, sorry, I just popped Giles at the bottom. Yeah, awesome.
And then I think that's just one person's army. I think it was an Alpha Legion's army that caught my eye. And then this was, I think, somebody's entire Blood Angels force. I don't think.
I don't know. We're getting all of that in for 1,500 points. If they are, then I'd like to meet their calculator.
On the little slip they wrote, "Please follow me." It was Dry Brush.
At Dry Brush Dave.
Dry Brush Dave.
He said, "Please follow me because I'm a sort of a
struggling attention whore
or something." Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I like that. Good lad.
Anyway,
so whatever you do not follow him.
Yeah. This was Dan's list that he took. Yeah, a mention for the Whirlwind Scorpius, which remains a
top tier choice.
Tank choice because it doesn't need line of sight, so you can hide it away still. And I think I wouldn't say it's better, but I'd say it's just as good because it's got the breaching 4-up on a large template, so it
pins.
Yeah, so two of those in a army, I think, would be Tres good. I think it would be like they remain a really good choice to take. And the other thing I say about Dan's list, the Contemptors had Grav in their fists were just a pain. So it was just that just stripped a lot of whole points off of Harry Spartan, which just meant the demise of it really. So
awesome, cool. Right then, guys, we'll take a quick break, take a short break, and then we'll come back to close the show. So we'll see you guys in a minute. Thank you. Okay. Hi guys, welcome back. We're just going to close out the show, but before we do that, we want to just tell you about our first Heresy Hammer giveaway. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, this is to celebrate the 10th episode and receiving 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So yeah, we've got some great prizes donated to us courtesy of our sponsor, which is the awesome dudes at Cryptic Cabin. So we'll just give you a quick rundown of what there is what there is that's up for grabs. So first up, we have a Legion Praetor, which is pretty cool. That's pretty good. It's quite a cool prize. It's not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. A box of Mark 6 Tactical Marines. Again,
spicy.
That's spicy. That's pretty good. But they were also very generous, and they've also given us this bad boy, which is a Kratos, however you want to pronounce it. So yeah. 3 prizes up for grabs. What we'll be doing in the next week, we're going to record a separate video, and in that video, we're going to detail what it will take for you to be in the running to receive a prize. Patreons, anybody that's signed up to our Patreon currently and up until next week, you will get an automatic entry into the prize draw, into the giveaway. So we'll be detailing all that in a separate video, and we'll probably drop that at the end of next week or maybe sort of at the weekend. So keep an eye out for that. We'll post that on Insta as well, saying when we've dropped it, so everybody gets a chance to watch it and follow the instructions. And be in the running to win one of these 3 pretty damn fucking cool prizes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool actually.
Not bad at all.
Yeah,
spicy. Cool. Happy days. Yeah, so that kind of wraps episode 10 up. If you guys can keep posting your whips and your completed models on Instagram or on any of the social medias, and use the hashtag heresyhammer. If you can like and subscribe, comment, share, tell your friends, tell your in-laws, tell anybody you know, anybody you think might be interested in our show. Give us a shout out on YouTube. Any lists you want to submit, any ideas for any shows, anything like that. Anything you want to sort of give us any feedback, but not do it in the sort of public domain. You can hit us up on our email, which is heresyhammer30k@gmail.com. And also, we'd like to sort of plug the Patreon one more time as well. So if you go onto Patreon and just search Heresy Hammer, that'll take you to our page where there's the multiple tiers, as we discussed at the top of the episode, for you guys to check out. I think that's kind of it. I think that's it for episode 10. Double figures. Happy days. I think it was a good one. Anything to add from you boys? Nope. No? Anything from you, John?
No, not really. Rob and I are about to record the next Tactica for Patreon. So if you want to catch our thoughts about assault marines and how we think that they might be able to be worked into lists in the modern meta, then subscribe.
Awesome. Right. That's all from me. Take it easy, guys. Thank you very much.
Take care.
See you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.